Welcome to RFD-TV Live, an informative and interactive hour featuring topics and products of interest to rural America, with expert guests on hand to answer your questions or discuss your feedback. And now, RFD-TV Live.
It is SFPLive on RFD-TV Live this evening. Hello, everyone. I'm agriculture broadcaster Max Armstrong, co-host of This Week in Agribusiness, seen weekends here on RFD-TV. And our subject this evening is optimizing your fall phosphorus fertilization program. First of all, to optimize yields, you need to make the best of that fertilizer investment, and certainly you want to maximize the investment, losing nothing that you invest in that important crop input. So we'll talk a bit about it. We'll share with you some interesting charts where you can see some comparisons of what is possible using AVAIL from SFP. And we have the opportunity for you to call in a little bit later here. Yes, you'll be able to ask questions of our panel of experts, which is always the hallmark of RFD-TV Live. Let me introduce to you who's joining me here this evening on our broadcast. Alongside me, Dr. Larry Sanders, President and CEO of SFP and father of AVAIL, I like to say. Is that right?
Well, that's right, Max, and we're proud to be here tonight, and thank you for hosting us.
Dr. Sanders, is always a treat to visit with you. We learn something every time you're here, being the resident scientist on the panel time after time. Alongside you, Dave Schwartz from SFP as well, National Products Manager for the company. Dave, good to see you again.
It's a pleasure to be back, Max.
You have a great story to tell every season, and you can see your products at work in the field. It's gratifying, isn't it?
Very gratifying. And this year we've got so much diversity in weather and conditions across the entire United States that we are seeing some amazing results with the AVAIL product.
Side-by-side comparisons are stark contrasts sometimes, aren't they, as we'll see a little bit later?
Yes, the more different the weather, the more stark the contrast.
We welcome in for the first time ever Dr. Barney Gordon, Professor Emeritus from Kansas State University, who's done a lot of work in the field with wheat over the years. Dr. Gordon, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your career. How many years you worked with the growers?
I was on the faculty of Kansas State University for a little over 20 years. I retired a couple of years ago and moved back home. We had done some of the original research with the AVAIL product going back nearly 12 years now to the very beginning.
So you certainly have some good things to share with us here over the next few minutes. We look forward to seeing what you have to offer.
Thank you.
Larry, to start with, and I often ask you to review the science with us a little bit to talk about the product because it is so important, and maybe folks need to get up to speed a little bit. Somebody perhaps tuning in for the first time, they know about the product, but maybe they need to know more.
Absolutely, Max. And, farmers can lose 75 to 95% of their phosphorus through fixation in the soil. At 70 or 80 cents a pound, that's a huge loss. I mean, you can lose $30 or $40 an acre that you should be able to get into that plant and make that plant respond to that phosphorus. But it's just not happening unless you use AVAIL to protect that phosphorus. And I think we've got a video that's coming up that'll illustrate this just a little bit.
To show how it works.
Absolutely. And phosphorus has a negative charge, and here's the bad boys, this calcium, iron, magnesium, and aluminum, and they attach to that negative charge and create an insoluble product, which is phosphorus precipitated out. But if you put AVAIL on there, it protects that phosphorus, and those ions like calcium, magnesium, and iron attached to the AVAIL and not to the phosphorus. What a solution.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Lest we forget, Dave and Barney, phosphorus is crucial, isn't it? I mean, talk a little bit about the importance, especially in the wheat crop.
Go ahead, Barney.
Okay. I think we have a few slides here that illustrate the importance of phosphorus in the wheat plant. First of all, here we are. Very critical stage of growth in the wheat is the first 5 to 6 weeks after emergence. That wheat plant has to have that phosphorus at that stage of growth in order to reach its absolute potential. If it suffers deficiency at that stage, the yields can suffer. So fall applications of phosphorus are critical for maximum wheat yields. The wheat plant takes up about 18% of the total phosphorus in that first 6 weeks of growth. So absolutely critical to that phosphorus plant.
So it gets it with a good start before you go into dormancy.
You do. You have to have it for the tillering and for the rooting. Especially if you're double cropping, you're planting wheat behind another crop and it's a little bit late in the fall, temperatures drop, the root growth isn't going to be quite as good. Critical to have that phosphorus available in those situations.
And you know, I'm sorry, Barney, I just want to add one point. There's still 82% of that phosphorus that's left to be taken up through the season, and AVAIL provides that season-long protection.
Excellent. So you get that use not only at the outset, you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Protects that phosphorus all season long.
There was another chart you had there, Barney, that showed something about tillering.
Some look, a slight look here at the effects of phosphorus on rooting and tillering, and this is it here. And if we look at that chart, have phosphorus rates against the numbers of adventitious roots and tillers. No phosphorus, and we add phosphorus up to about 30 pounds per acre. We more than double our number of tillers, and we more than 6 times as many adventitious roots with adequate phosphorus as opposed to no phosphorus at all. So very critical for rooting and tillering. And of course our tillers is where our yields come from. The number of heads increase, the more yield we have. One other look here, we have a nice picture here to illustrate what it looks like in the field. Actually, per bushel of wheat removes about 0.6 pounds per phosphorus for every bushel that's harvested. So it does have a high phosphorus requirement, and we can see the differences here. More tillers, more heads there on the right there. Poor tillering, poor rooting there on the left, and we also see the effects on maturity. Hasten maturity. Phosphorus is noted for doing that. So lots of important things there with phosphorus nutrition.
And Barney, most people don't realize, but that's more phosphorus per bushel than corn or soybeans.
It certainly is. It's very high use for phosphorus.
Do you think phosphorus sometimes gets taken for granted, or maybe there isn't quite as much emphasis as there should be in the utilization that is necessary?
Well, of course. I think we emphasize nitrogen so much that a lot of the other nutrients lose their importance. But you can't get good nitrogen nutrition in the plant unless you have adequate phosphorus. Phosphorus is essential, just like Barney's been talking to us about. So have your phosphorus protected, you'll get better nitrogen use even.
We have another side-by-side comparison, I think, to see here, do we not, that shows a pretty significant contrast when you're taking a look at what can happen in wheat?
We do, and this test was conducted based on some of Barney's research, and we just kind of modified it and did it near our offices in Kansas. And you can see that when you apply the AVAIL and Nutrisphere for nitrogen, that you get an additive effect or a multiplicative effect. And we increased the check from 34 bushels up to 64 bushels where you apply the AVAIL and Nutrisphere. And it's now $7, Dave?
Yes, today's Kansas City price is $7.71.
That's 30 bushel increase, which is a lot. But still, that is a lot of money to leave on the table when you're applying the same amount of fertilizer on both sides, but you're protecting the nitrogen, you're protecting the phosphorus with AVAIL and Nutrisphere. And man, do you get the response.
There's one other point I want to add to this, Max. You know, we've got many growers out here that grow wheat that also double crop soybeans.
That's right.
And Barney brought up a very important point. When you saw the picture that he showed there of the soybean or the wheat heading out earlier, maturing faster, those of you that are double cropping soybeans out there, you want to get that wheat off as soon as you can, get those soybeans in the ground. And with the AVAIL, we have seen at least a week in a lot of cases, and sometimes even more than a week, you can get those soybeans in the ground that much sooner. That wheat is ready that much quicker. So this is a huge opportunity for the double crop. Get a bigger yield of wheat and get your soybeans planted faster. And I looked at today's price of soybeans. They look pretty good as well. I think we're looking at $13.62 for November soybeans right now. So, boy, opportunities to make huge income off these acres. And these are little added benefit products that can make big differences in the bottom line.
So in a double cropping situation, the wheat can mature more quickly with the use of AVAIL and allow that producer an earlier entry in then to come in with that no-till drill behind the wheat stubble.
And we've seen this time and time again, Max, across the entire country. We've got lots of plot data that has come in where they have actually seen up to a week to 10 days increased maturity. And again, it goes back to Dr. Gordon, your work on phosphorus utilization by a wheat crop.
Very interesting. I understand we have a couple of slides also that show a yield advantage here. We might want to take a look at.
This is our consolidation of all the research over the last 12 years, a lot of Dr. Gordon's work plus other universities, retailers, and growers across the entire United States. Over 12 years, we've compiled all this data. And what we're showing here is all the AVAIL wheat trials we've done. We're looking at a 6.9 average across all these trials over 12 years. Now, you take that price of wheat we just talked about, $7.70, and you take 6.9, round it to 7 bushels, you're talking about a $50 plus an acre advantage every time you treat the phosphorus with AVAIL. The average cost to treat 30 units of phosphorus with AVAIL is about $3.50 on dry fertilizer. So a $3.50 investment for a $50 return. I wish I could go to the casino and do that well, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there another slide that also represents this as well?
Yes, this is our AVAIL wheat trials just using dry phosphate. That one I just showed you is all dry and liquid. And this is just on the dry side. And again, it comes right in at that 6.8 bushel. So it's very consistent. And I don't care whether you're in North Carolina, Ohio, Indiana, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Colorado, all the way across the entire wheat growing country, we see this performance just time and time again. It is absolutely, as a lot of growers say, a no-brainer.
You make an important point. As a lot of growers say, I think it's one thing to hear agronomists talking about it and they've tested it in their plots. But I think like a lot of producers, when I'm buying something and I'm wondering a little bit about it, I want to talk to somebody. I say, give me a name of someone who's used this equipment, who's used this service, who's used this product. And in fact, we have a lot of producers out there who now have experience.
Yes, we do, and we sure like to let them do the talking for us.
Well, let's do that. Let's see right now some of the producers who share their views about using AVAIL.
I put it on in the fall. We tried something different last year. We actually had them broadcast like 30 units of N, put Nutrisphere on it, put the 1846 with AVAIL, potassium and sulfur as to the soil test. We mixed the wheat seed in with all the fertilizer, and they spread it all in one trip with the pneumatic spreader they have. We incorporated it and was able to do that with the wheat. The fertilizer program is very important, and anytime you can invest, say, $5 an acre on a product that you know is going to help with the yield, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to know that you're going to get with the current prices that definitely get your money back on that.
We've been putting on AVAIL on our fall fertilizer on DAP, about 200 pounds, and we've been putting, in the spring, we've been putting on about 110 pound of urea, and we've been putting Nutrisphere on it.
On our wheat, we have seen at least a 5 to 10 bushel increase on wheat yields since we've been using AVAIL and Nutrisphere.
We applied 250 pounds of triple 19 fertilizer to the wheat in October when we planted with AVAIL on the fertilizer. We came back in February and applied nitrogen with Nutrisphere-N to all of our wheat. The AVAIL was only on 38 acres. We wanted to experiment and see how that worked out for the year, and looks like it's going to work out very well. The wheat was a healthier wheat through the winter, darker green, better looking wheat. Then we decided to go ahead and just put the AVAIL on all of our corn ground. When we walked across the field, you could just see when you got there a big difference in the wheat. We had a different guy spread fertilizer on the same company, but it was a different driver went out and top dressed the wheat, and he wanted to know what the differences was in the wheat because the AVAIL wheat was so much healthier looking whenever he was top dressing the wheat. We had some agronomists out, and we went out and looked at the wheat. We was comparing the wheat that had AVAIL to the wheat that did not whenever it was fully headed out. The wheat that had the AVAIL on it had more grain rows than the wheat that did not have AVAIL. Usually it was on an average of 3 to 5 grain rows per head difference. The most important factor to me is the better the crop, the better your bottom line is at the end of the harvest season. I believe that Nutrisphere and AVAIL both have helped our plant, helped our farming operation. I would most definitely recommend AVAIL and Nutrisphere-N.
So I went into the local co-op, turned to my local fertilizer gal, and I says, we got good moisture this fall, and we're going to have $10 wheat at harvest, which we may or may not by now, you know. And I says, I want 100 bushel wheat. I about knocked her off her chair. And so we started in, we put in between 40 and 50 pounds of phosphate with AVAIL, and put down put the fungicide on the seed, got it planted in good time, in good moisture. We got a nice good stand. We're counting the berries across that rachis. I've never seen a 4-berry rachis. And so over the past 3 weeks, we've seen that go from 2 to 3 to 4. And if looks like I might even have a fourth one coming there possibly. And that's where the yield's really going to come. And so therefore, that's, you know, if you look at the head this way, you see it almost looks like a road, 4 rows down the head. And that's where our yield's going to come from. The very best field of wheat I've ever raised. Yes, hands down.
The very best, hands down. Oh, some powerful comments from producers there from, well, Kansas, Illinois, Oklahoma, Nebraska. You heard from the growers themselves. It is remarkable. I want 100 bushel wheat. Now let's do it.
Let's do it.
And that's what AVAIL and Nutrisphere give you, that potential. And that's really what we're in the business of, is giving farmers potential. And that last producer on there, Gene from Nebraska, he does business with one of our branded dealers out there, CPI, and he deals with a young lady named Caitlin Geiger.
That's who he was talking about?
At Guide Rock, Nebraska. And Caitlin's very knowledgeable and does a great job recommending our products. And he ended up with an 11 bushel response on that field. And we've got the slide here, I think, to show 53.5 versus 42.4. So take that times your 770 price. He didn't get his $10, but he turned out quite well. He ended up with a very nice return on investment, about $80 an acre. So I think that was well worth the investment in the AVAIL.
Sure. Dr. Gordon, I know you have a little bit more information to share from some of the work done in Kansas there.
Yeah, we got a couple of slides here that illustrate some of our yields with AVAIL in some of our dryland wheat experiments in Kansas. 3-year average here. And this illustrates typically what we see in our research plots. MAP by itself, MAP plus AVAIL. 3 rates of phosphorus, 20, 40, 60 pounds per acre, looking at yield per acre, 3-year averages here. The first thing we notice is we see better yields with the AVAIL treated MAP at all levels of phosphorus. And if we actually look a little closer, we see that we got better yields with 40 pounds of P2O5 treated with AVAIL than we did with 60 pounds that was MAP just by itself untreated. This phosphorus was broadcast in the fall, and it optimized our yields. And the second slide here, you might be familiar with some of the micro-essential products that are available now. And we did some work with that in 2 years, 2009 and 2010. And again, we see that here, we didn't really increase our yields all that much with the Micro Essentials product until we added the AVAIL to it. That maximized our yields. And again, if we look at 20 pounds P2O5 plus AVAIL, 88 bushels per acre, we did better than 20 or 40 pounds of P2O5 by itself, or 20 pounds of P2O5 plus the Micro Essentials. So Good product. It works well with a lot of other products as well.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk a little more about wheat, but we're going to talk about corn too, I think, coming up here momentarily as we continue our discussion. And we'll offer you the opportunity, producers, to call in and ask your questions about AVAIL from SFP as we continue on this broadcast of SFP Live. We'll be back.
It's not too early to think fall. So protect your phosphorus fertilizer application with AVAIL Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Fact: up to 75 to 95% of your phosphorus never reaches the plant's roots. AVAIL acts like a negatively charged shield that protects your phosphorus fertilizer by attracting the positively charged ions, reducing phosphorus fixation, and help maximize your phosphorus dollar. Your crops will get a strong, healthy start, so you can see a better return on your investment. Research shows that fall-applied phosphate protected by AVAIL increases corn yields by 8 bushels per acre. AVAIL has also been proven to increase wheat yields by as much as 6.9 bushels per acre. That's why it pays to add AVAIL Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. So save yourself time and money next spring. Talk to your fertilizer dealer today for more information, or visit ChooseAVAIL.com.
Don't waste time away from your operation. Find all the equipment you need in one place. AuctionTime.com. Buy or sell heavy-duty trucks, farm equipment, and construction equipment. No buyer's fees, no hidden reserves. And unlike conventional auctions, AuctionTime.com gives potential buyers the chance to discuss specifics about the auction pieces with the seller directly or see the actual machine for themselves. Auctioning and bidding on the equipment you need is easy and efficient at AuctionTime.com. Register now. Register for free. Visit AuctionTime.com.
Something unexpected to the world of multigrain. Taste. Delicious Pringles multigrain with a variety of flavors. Multigrain pops with Pringles.
I asked my wife, in your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine I'd have my own show on RFD-TV? And she said, Bax, you've never been in my wildest dreams. To find airing times for Baxter Black from out there, check BaxterBlack.com.
Some of you growers in wheat country might have a question about AVAIL and maximizing your phosphorus investment. We welcome your call here. As is always the case on RFD-TV Live, here's the telephone number to call. It's 877-731-6733. And we'll take your call to visit with Larry and Dave and Barney here a few minutes from now. Maybe you've had some personal experience using AVAIL on your farm. We'd welcome your sharing that as well. Because no doubt you've found, as other producers have and the agronomists have, that you can indeed get results. Now, let me also mention, after the broadcast tonight, we'll have a special webinar, just in case you can't get in for some reason on our jammed phone lines, which happens from time to time. But maybe you can get in, but if you can't, and maybe you want to pursue something that is mentioned here during the conversation in that webinar a little bit later, at 8:05, right after this broadcast, we'll have that webinar, and you'll be able to go in through the SFP website, sfp.com, and look for the box RFD Live there, and you'll be able to hook up with these folks and get some additional questions answered. Dr. Sanders, Barney was talking earlier about fall phosphorus, maximizing that investment there. Let's talk a little more about that in wheat.
Yeah, Max, that's a really important factor because, you know, and Barney's got a lot of information on this, but what he's shown is, and a lot of other researchers have shown, is you can apply that phosphorus in the fall, and that phosphorus is still active 11 to 12 months later, still providing that plant with all the phosphorus nutrition that it needs all through the growing season to provide the kind of yield increases that the farmers are looking for. That's the great part about this chemistry, is it's not, 2 weeks that it's protecting the phosphorus, but it's really going the whole season for that crop.
And if you are a corn grower trying to anticipate the growing season ahead, Barney, I know you've done some work in this area too, have you not?
We did. We have, and we have a slide here that just illustrates the general importance of phosphorus in corn production. If we look at this slide, this was from a study that was designed to look at actual maximization of yields. Our corn varieties now have so much better genetic potentials that we're missing out on a lot of that yield just not by having adequate nutrition for it. If we look at this slide, we see unfertilized check 120. If we added nitrogen, we added 67 bushels per acre. But when we added the phosphorus, 100 pounds of P2O5, we picked up another 55 bushels per acre. Now, how much is that worth to a farmer now with the price of corn?
Let's come to Dave Schwartz for that, because I know he runs the math consistently.
Well, 60 bushel increase, you're looking at a whole $360.
I think
or more.
Most people would think that would be significant yield increase and economic return. So phosphorus is very important. We got a couple other slides here as well that illustrate some other things.
Dave, you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah,
this was in corn also.
Yeah,
right?
this is a compilation of all the SFP data over the last 12 years. Barney's hundreds of plots that we've put together. The first one we got here is AVAIL fall applied pea corn trials, and again we're looking at just fall applied, which is the market we've been talking about here on wheat. Well, this also applies to corn. And this is the big granddaddy of them all, is that corn market in the Midwest. As high as 80% of the phosphorus gets applied in the fall. And so we need to be talking about that right now, and you need to be talking to your dealer about this right now, because it takes some time to get this all set up so we can make sure that you get the AVAIL applied.
So now's the time to be having that conversation.
Now is the time to have that conversation with your local dealer about getting the process set in his dealership to put the product on. We have time to get that done. So you look at the trials, I mean, it is an automatic 8 bushel in that fall applied on corn, and that's whether it's dry or liquid. And then you go on the next slide where our average yield increase on all of our AVAIL corn trials, this is 163. This is fall or spring, is 9.9 bushel to the acre. 10 bushel, just use that corn price, Chicago corn price today is $6.80. That is $68 an acre. And we're not talking about a cost to treat 100 pounds of fall plow down phosphorus with AVAIL. You're looking at it right at $6. 1 bushel. Are you willing to invest 1 bushel in an opportunity to make 10?
Well, I'm impressed that it's not just 5 trials or 20 trials or 50 trials. It's 160 trials you were talking about there.
And it's all over the entire Corn Belt.
Barney, you've had some additional experience here to share, perhaps?
Yes, this is some of our original work, this first slide here. Some of our original work that we did with AVAIL on corn. Again, it's a 3-year average. This is on a soil that was not low in available P either. This was in the upper part of the medium soil test range. 3 rates of phosphorus, 20, 40, 60 pounds, P2O5. Looking at grain yields here. Again, at all levels of phosphorus, we got better yields with the AVAIL treated map than the map by itself. And the other thing that's really significant in here is that we got better yields with 20 pounds of P2O5 treated with AVAIL than we did with 60 pounds without. So that's a significant savings. Not only are we getting better yields, we're saving money as well.
Well, absolutely. And I think one important part of that is people that are renting ground now, Max. And, you know, there's a lot of folks out there that rent ground. So if you can cut back on 40 pounds per acre and not build up that phosphorus soil test for somebody else, then that puts a lot of money in your pocket. You're still getting the same kind of yields. And also for those folks that are a little cash tight, they want to use AVAIL as a way to manage a little bit less fertilizer going out to still maintain yields. It gives folks an option anyway to manage their fertilizer program.
So there is that option of maybe cutting back a little bit if you want to.
Sure.
Well, and I'll take it a step further, Larry. We've talked to a lot of producers. You know, when you look at what this product does to phosphorus, how it makes phosphorus that much more available, you can look at it just like you look at nitrogen. Set your yield goal, put the pounds of phosphorus that you need on for that yield goal, treat it with AVAIL, and forget about trying to build your soils, because this product does what nitrogen does. You're going to get it all in that first year. So instead of trying to have to build your soils up, and Larry can tell you all about that, and Barney, these guys spend most of their careers educating people on that. But here's a product that really kind of disputes that whole theory. And so put the rate on for the yield goal you have. And that's why I really would like to talk to farmers out here about fertilizing the crop that you're growing and not trying to put on fertilizer for 2 crops. Because you're going to lose the effect of the AVAIL on that second crop. So I know many of you out there like to put on phosphorus and potash in the fall for 2 crops. If you really look at this from the value that these products bring to the marketplace, you want to fertilize each crop, put the yield goal in place that you're shooting for, and just fertilize for that yield goal. Turn right around and fertilize again next year for the following crop, if it's soybeans or if it's corn on corn, instead of trying to double up that application of phos for 2 years.
Great point from Dave Schwartz there, who is alongside Dr. Larry Sanders and Dr. Barney Gordon here as we're talking about fall fertilization, making the most of your phosphorus investment there with the help of AVAIL. Let me give you the telephone number again if you'd like to call in and visit with our experts. It's 877-731-6733. Our telephone number on RFD-TV Live. It's SFPLive. Our broadcast we're sharing with you this evening. We'd welcome your call at 877-731-6733. Barney, I know you have another chart or two there.
We've got a couple more charts here. If we could look at, this is looking at plant P uptake. What exactly does happen in the plant here? And we have more phosphorus available in the soil. The plant takes it up, and this illustrates that very clearly. P uptake in pounds per acre, and we can see at all rates of applied phosphorus, 20, 40, 60 pounds per acre. We get better uptake. We get more phosphorus in the plant through the use of AVAIL.
Very good.
And our last slide here actually compares fall and spring applications. This was, again, a 3-year study conducted in Kansas. Again, the soil was not low in available P. It was an upper part of the medium soil test range. And we can see here with this chart, if we look at the map plus AVAIL there, applied in the fall or the spring, essentially the same there. We don't lose anything. Part of my responsibility when I was at Kansas State was running of a research farm. And it's in a lot of respects the same type of farm that everybody has. And we get busy in the spring too. We get behind. We put that phosphorus out in the fall. We're that much ahead come planting time.
Yeah, spring is getting very compacted, isn't it? I mean, it seems like every spring it gets more so. I mean, we wind up with challenges in our ability to start earlier. We want to start earlier. We need to have as much under our belt as we possibly can, I think many producers feel, and getting that fall fertilization done, but protecting it so it's still available. That's crucial to many growers.
And the price of the fertilizer. I think you're going to see with the strong commodity prices, I don't think you're going to see fertilizer prices go down anytime soon. So probably right now is probably going to be the best buy on fertilizer. So we encourage the growers to get in there and talk to that dealer about fall application, be it for your wheat or for your corn, and getting that AVAIL treatment. Make sure that that dealer's equipped to put that AVAIL on there.
Well, it's one thing to hear Dave say it and Larry say it and Barney say it, but again, producers who've had the experience are able to share some thoughts with us also about fall phosphorus fertilization and protecting that. Let's take a look at what growers said.
Noticed that last year on a field that we had split, did half and half, and over the clay hills, that the AVAIL side stayed nice and green, and it showed on the yield monitor where the non-AVAIL side wasn't there as far as yield a little bit, and you could just see it in the appearance, and you know something's happening. Our AVAIL side was more even over those hills, a nice green even stand. It was visually taller than the other side, and we were showing a good 5 bushel came across on the yield monitor, so definitely more than paid for itself.
The importance of fall fertilization in this area is we're far enough north that we don't have the time in the spring to apply fertilizer, and also with our heavy clay loam soils, it's very important not to overwork your soil in the spring. Probably the most important reason we decided to add AVAIL to our fall fertilizer program is fertilizer is getting more expensive. We're trying to make sure that we make use of every pound that we buy, so it's available at the plant. We don't see the results till the spring, and that's part of that green canopy and the early green growth because the roots are getting to the phosphorus and making use of them early. And it's a lot of a lot of it is a peace of mind in the spring that we put on in the fall and know it's gonna be there in the spring.
We use AVAIL in the fall. We have the co-op spread our dry fertilizer for us, saves us time and a trip in the spring. Get the fertilizer out there so it's ready to go in the spring for the crop. I split a field, a quarter section last spring or last fall, and half AVAIL, half just my regular fertilizer program. Yield monitor picked up maybe 3 to 5 bushel difference, the advantage to AVAIL. What I did like about it is on that portion that I had AVAIL on, there was some clay hills on that, and those hills stayed green. It was just an even looking field as opposed to where I didn't have AVAIL.
If we can put fertilizer on in the fall, it makes our window in the spring a little bit easier on me and on the co-ops that are applying the fertilizer for us. Another reason would be cost. It seems to be cheaper to put fall fertilizer on than it does in the spring. In this particular case that we did try a split field on, it was a high pH soiled farm. The pH was anywhere from, I would say, 6.9 to over 8. And the pH that I was having trouble with was the over 8. We put AVAIL on, and the corn did not, it was more even throughout the whole field. That was our goal. We knew that we could do it. We just had to get the right product out there to do it for us. And AVAIL seemed to be that product. It let the corn take the fertilizer up when it needed to and not tie it up in the soil. We will continue using the product with fertilizer prices where they are and grain prices today where they are. We feel that we need to use that product to enhance, get the best bushels that we can, because bushels is what pays the bills, and we need to do that today.
We use AVAIL. Here again, we took a test plot on an 80-acre farm, and you could tell Eric wouldn't tell me where he spreaded it at, and so I kept asking him during the season. Of course, you could see the darker green in the corn, and so then that fall here again, when we ran in there with the monitor on the combine, you could tell the difference. And there's like anywhere from 7 to 10 bushel acre difference on that. They come by the shop here. We got a tire shop here, and they visit with a lot of the other farmers in here. And they hear us talking and stuff, and they were questioning things, you know, why are you getting these kind of yields and stuff? And of course I told them we reduced our phosphate level, the spreading poundage per acre because of this product. And said we got proof, that it's working. We're all in here for the dollar, and you want to save as much as you can. And, this is at a 200-pound rate we're doing it, and we're getting very good results.
Joe Bruchetta there, running about 100 miles an hour during planting season when we stopped by his place, and he was more than happy to share his experience, as he had shared, you could tell, with other growers there in the farm office. Great comments also from the #1 corn-producing state in America, from Iowa there, about the use of AVAIL. We have a caller calling in from North Carolina, joining us here on SFP Live. Greg, you're on with us. Hello there.
Hello, how you doing?
Just great. Thanks for watching the broadcast.
Good. My question is, will AVAIL help me in hay production? I grow Kentucky 31, Lespedeza, Fescue, and Coastal Bermuda.
Well, absolutely, Greg. Phosphorus is an essential nutrient. You just can't get good nitrogen use efficiency unless you have good phosphorus in the plant. So it's going to help you in more than one way. It's going to help you get the phosphorus into the plant. It's going to help your overall nutrition of those forages and get you more TDN, more digestible nutrients. And AVAIL has shown that in a lot of different tests across the country, not only with cool season forages, but also warm season forages.
Have you found, Dave, commercial hay producers along with dairymen utilizing AVAIL?
Wow. This is it's a solid seeded crop. You get every pellet. You get the benefit from every pellet. Just had a grower from Iowa call me this spring here and told me he is already over 2 ton a head and 2 cuttings on alfalfa where he's had AVAIL. So, yes, you utilize every bit of the phosphorus that you apply in these forage crops. And our best testimonials come from people that are in forages.
From North Carolina to Kentucky we go now. Ken is calling in from the Bluegrass State. How are you, Ken?
It's Jim.
Oops, I'm sorry. We'll get it straightened away. Jim, go right ahead.
Well, our problem is we have a high phosphorus of 171 and a potassium of 239, and the phosphorus is locked in the soil. What can we use to unlock the phosphorus?
Well, Jim, you're not going to be able to unlock that phosphorus. I mean, we invented AVAIL, and we tried some initial experiments to try to break those bonds in the soil which tie up phosphorus so tight, and we just couldn't do it. So we went with the attitude that we're going to protect the phosphorus that we apply every year. And that's exactly what AVAIL does. No longer, when you apply phosphorus, does it become 75 to 95% of it become tied up and fixed in the soil. But most of it gets into the plant. So that's what you want to look at, is protecting the phosphorus that you apply each year with AVAIL. You can't break those bonds with that in that soil. It's really strong.
One of the things, too, Jim, that we've learned is that the higher the phosphorus test in the soil, the more capable that soil is at fixing phosphorus. So that would be a great example to go with a starter fertilizer program, a row starter fertilizer program, and add some AVAIL with a 3 to 5 gallons of pop-up starter. Get that plant off to a healthy start, and let that plant get out there and establish a big root system to maybe help pull out some of that phosphorus that's built up.
I see you nodding your head down there, Barney. I think you must have had some experience with this as well.
We did. We in Kansas on our farm, we had some soils that were very high in P, and we found very good responses with starter fertilizer with AVAIL consistently.
Well, we welcome your call here on SFP Live. Let me give you the telephone number one more time, 877-731-6733 is that number, 877-731-6733. We'll get back to your calls right after this.
SFP's new Fertilizer Efficiency Network kicked off its summer tour and is coming to a location near you. This mobile technology unit will travel across America to share news and research on the importance of fertilizer efficiency. We'll be visiting various farm communities, agricultural events, and research plots where growers are gathering to learn more about fertilizer efficiency and management for their own farms. Visit FENtour.com for an event near you and to vote for your favorite charity in the Yield Signs for Success program.
Let's change the perception of modern farming and ranching. It's time to build upon what we all share instead of focusing on what sets us apart. We need to cultivate the higher ground and lead the conversation about how we raise food. Now's the time to send an invitation where everyone has a seat at the table, because it's time to feed people's minds as well as their bodies. Join us in leading a conversation about the importance of today's agriculture.
The Nebraska State Fair celebrates its second year from their new location in Grand Island, Nebraska. Join us Thursday night, August 4th on RFD-TV Live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central Time, as State Fair officials talk about how the State Fair Board continues to attract fair visitors every year. Don't miss what's new at the 2011 Nebraska State Fair, the 142nd edition, on RFD-TV Live, Thursday, August 4th.
Nutrisphere-N, comprehensive protection from your nitrogen loss. Reduce volatilization. Reduce leaching. Reduce denitrification. 3 forms of protection, 1 great product. Nutrisphere-N flexibility, side dress or weed and feed. Whatever your practice, Nutrisphere-N can help protect your nitrogen investment, giving you peace of mind. It's not just another nitrogen stabilizer, it's Nutrisphere-N, Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager.
Welcome back to SFP Live on RFD-TV Live. Our telephone number, 877-731-6733. As the subject this evening is optimizing your fall phosphorus fertilization program. But the folks at SFP have their AVAIL product that is doing just that for growers all over the country. Let's go to Bill now, who's calling in from Illinois. Bill, whereabouts are you in the Prairie State?
Right near Ottawa, Max. I believe you're familiar with that area.
Absolutely. Is that LaSalle County?
Yep, right in LaSalle County.
Very good, sir. Go right ahead with your question or comment.
Well, my question is, we apply a liquid calcium solution in the fall, and because of that, we apply our phosphorus in the spring to avoid tie-up. Now, if we use a product like AVAIL, will that allow us to apply not only, the calcium like we have been doing in the fall, but also put our phosphorus on in the fall and avoid that spring pass across the ground?
I would say that as long as you don't mix them together to try to accomplish that, I think that if you have some space in there in timing, that you could do that. That'd be something that I would believe that would work, because the AVAIL will protect it from that calcium bonding.
All right, Bill. Dave, Barney, anything to add to that? Any additional comments?
I don't have anything to. I agree with Larry. Just don't put them together.
Yeah. All right. Very good. 877-731-6733. Our telephone number here on RFD-TV Live. Gerald is calling in from Texas. Gerald, we certainly sympathize with you folks. We know it's been a terribly difficult summer. It just doesn't end, does it?
No, it doesn't end. It's just terrible. We've had 105 degrees today.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we're certainly thinking about you folks and keeping you in our thoughts and prayers there, because we know it has been quite an ordeal and it's quite a burden to carry by all means. Go right ahead with your question or comment.
Well, I raised a lot of watermelons, and I was wondering if this would help with the drought problems, getting better water in them.
Well, Gerald, and Dr. Gordon can also address this, but anytime you have better nutrient availability, you make better use out of your moisture that you have. So you'll get better water use efficiency if you can provide nutrients availability to that crop, because every drop of water you take up now is going to have more nutrients in it. So AVAIL and Nutrisphere will definitely help you under drought stress. But if you're under some of the conditions that we've seen down in Texas without irrigation of some kind, then this is not a miracle product. It's going to protect you from absolute drought like some of the places I've seen down there. But certainly if you're under moisture stress conditions, I would say AVAIL and Nutrisphere will help you provide that nutrition to that crop that'll help you overcome moisture stress. Barney, you want to address that?
Well, I agree with you, but just like you said, if you have absolutely dry soil, roots aren't going to grow through dry soil, and elements have trouble diffusing to the soil surface when you're in that dry situation. So those are things to keep in mind. If it is really that dry, it's not going to be a miracle for you.
Our telephone number on RFD Live, 877-731-6733. As we're enjoying your calls and appreciate your watching the broadcast, John from Nebraska is joining us here next on the telephone line. John, how are you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Go right
ahead.
It's
plenty hot here.
I'm sorry, you've been hot too, haven't you?
Yes, hot and dry. Okay, my question is, back here we do a lot of grid sampling, and say like we grid sample and we do the 3-year program applying the fertilizer. Okay, this grid sample will last anywhere from 5 to 6 years. Let's say we use the AVAIL every time we apply this phosphate, in the 3 years. And then would this still be working at the 4th and 5th and possibly the 6th year for us, the AVAIL?
Well, John, the AVAIL is only going to work for 1 year at a time. Its lifetime in the soil is approximately 10 to 12 months. And that depends on the biological activity of the soil and how warm it is and how much rainfall you have. All those things go in together to determine how fast the microbes are going to break down AVAIL. But yes, it will give you almost a year's activity to protect that phosphorus. So, but it's not going to last for longer than that. So when you apply your next application of phosphorus next year, then you'll start over again protecting that phosphorus that you apply for that season's crop.
One of the things that, John, that we've noticed talking to producers that have used the product over a 3 to 4 year period, they'll tell us that the fields get continually better. And that is something that I think Nebraska is one of our big states for AVAIL, and that is something we're hearing out there is that the longer you use the product, we talk about it only lasts 10 to 12 months. There is some carryover effect, especially in drier years. We'll see some carryover effect. So it's a compiling effect over time. It just makes the crop overall better in time. So that's why I talked about maintenance levels every year. And when you're doing GPS variable rate technology application. We really feel it's important that maybe you put a lower limit on your application on variable rating of maybe just like 20 pounds, just so you've got some of the AVAIL phosphorus on those acres that don't call for anything, because you will see your variability in your growth.
Interesting.
We've witnessed that.
Well, we've talked about corn and wheat. We had inquiries about forage and about watermelons. Soybeans we haven't talked about yet, Mr. Dave Schwartz.
That is a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart, being from Iowa. Barney has done some tremendous work on soybeans.
We have, and we actually have a slide here, if we can get that up. This is some of our original work done on soybeans in Kansas. This was in a typical corn-soybean rotation, irrigated corn, irrigated soybeans. We fertilized the soybeans, of course, prior to planting. This is a 3-year average here. And again, we see a good advantage. We're looking at 9 to 10 bushel yield advantage here to treating the MAP with AVAIL rather than just a MAP by itself. We're seeing really consistent yield advantages. And if we're looking at 9 to 10 bushels of soybeans at what, $14 a bushel, gosh, I wish I had some soybeans.
And really, Barney, on that data, you kind of maximized your yields at about 30 pounds of phosphate per acre versus 60.
Yeah, we did. We were saving phosphorus and increasing our yields.
That is amazing.
Well, and that's the point that I really want to stress to you farmers in the Midwest. Really take a look at the way you're doing things now. You're paying that dealer. You think you're saving application money by having them apply 2 years worth of fertilizer. Look at the money we're talking here. We're talking hundreds of dollars of savings and increased profits that you can make by treating the phosphorus for the crop you're growing, putting a maintenance level out for that yield goal you're shooting for, 30 pounds of P on soybeans to get, this is a 3-year average. This wasn't something you just did one time, was it, Barney?
Yeah, that's a good point.
3-year average. And I am a part-time farmer myself. I've been using the AVAIL product on my soybeans. It's very obvious that you see a very big response when you put that AVAIL product with phosphorus on soybeans directly in the year you're growing them.
I didn't know you were a farmer also. You've just gone up a few notches there on my scale.
Well, I'm not a very big one.
Let's go to Minnesota. Michelle is calling in here with a question or comment as we're talking about AVAIL and its use in phosphorus. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Go right ahead.
Well, when I was listening here, you said you can put AVAIL in with your startup. Do you put it in with the startup, or do you put it in with your insecticide boxes and then put it and have it go in there when you plant?
Are you using dry or liquid phosphorus, Michelle?
Dry.
Okay, you're going to want your dry phosphorus treated at the plant. From your dealer will have to put it on there for you, and then you'll just put it in your dry starter box just like you normally would, and it can go either in the furrow or to the side, whichever way you're set up.
More and more are dealers prepared and geared up to serve the producers?
That is an area that we have really been addressing here in the recent last year and a half. We hired an application specialist, Brian French, out of Nebraska. He's been traveling the whole entire U.S. In fact, we buried him with so much work, so much interest from the dealer level that we just have recently hired another individual that we're really excited about bringing on board, Mike Mosier from Wisconsin, who is going to be taking the eastern half of the United States, and Brian's going to be working in the western half. Rigging up your dealership to apply these products can be very simple, but in some cases it can be a little more difficult. So that's why we hired these two gentlemen. They all come in, assess your dealership, get you on the right equipment that can speed up the application without holding up your workload, because that's the big fear that a lot of dealers have is tying up their flow of their business and reducing the amount of productivity they have in a day. Pre-treating the phosphorus going into that plant is what we're finding out to be the big way most of the dealers that have experienced the product and are comfortable with it are going to. And that's where we're going to be taking a lot of dealers in the future. Our growth has been tremendous, but I think we got the biggest growth yet to come.
Dave, if there is a dealer watching us this evening who perhaps has some questions, what's the best way for him or her to get some answers?
Go to our website, sfp.com, and you'll see a category there about people, and go right into the people section. We have account executives for most of the major states right now that we've hired in the last 2 years. And these are very qualified people, by the way. We've got some of the most talented people in the agronomic workforce out there.
You do. I've met them. They are outstanding people, no doubt about it.
They'll be more than happy to be able to direct you and get one of our application specialists to meet with you.
We have one more call in under the wire this evening from Arkansas. Harry, you're on with us. Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you for taking my call. My question is, y'all was talking about a while ago, you're a part-time farmer. I'm a full-time state trooper, but I have about probably 4 acres, maybe 5, that I do a truck patch with. I raise corn, turnips, greens, peas, all vegetables, squash. And I was wondering if it would be feasible for me to apply AVAIL with my fertilizer.
All right, Harry, thanks for calling in. Thanks for watching. We'll all buckle up. We always do, don't we, Dave?
Oh, yes. we must buckle up.
What would you say to Harry's question?
Well, that's very simple, Harry. Yes, as a vegetable producer, you're trying to make as much money as you can off a small acreage, much like a lot of people watching this show tonight. And that's where these products really can make a difference. We've got people that are making income increases, as you've heard tonight, of $200, $300 an acre. And the thing is, on vegetables, you take that times 2 or 3 because of the value of the produce. So on your 4-acre operation, even if you have to go buy bagged fertilizer, which there's bagged fertilizer around with AVAIL treatment on it, but get some on your phosphorus, spread it out there on your entire 4 acres, and plant whatever you want, because it's any crop, any soil, any climate.
We're just about out of time. I'll end with you, Dr. Larry Sanders, with a little bit of comment here as we're concluding this evening. By the way, the outdoor farm show season is upon us. You guys will be out there. Producers can come up to you and get some questions answered right on the seed, correct?
Yes, and we've got a big new mobile marketing unit, our Fertilizer Efficiency Network tour that we're unveiling at all the new farm shows. In fact, for those of you in the Northern Corn Belt, we're going to be in Redwood Falls this week, tomorrow through Thursday, at Farm Fest. And, of course, Farm Progress, Husker Harvest Days, Ohio Science Review, and many other smaller venues that we're going to be. This is a great opportunity for you to stop by, see our new technology, see testimonials, talk to our reps, and get the latest on AVAIL Nutrisphere.
Dr. Sanders, a half minute remaining here. Why don't you summarize just a little bit some of the great comments we've heard this evening?
Well, Max, who would buy a seed corn hybrid that only germinated 25% of the time? And that's what we're talking about with phosphorus. If you're only getting 25 or 5% of efficiency on that, nobody can afford that. They just don't realize what they're doing and how long they've been doing it. So now's an opportunity to change everything about fertilization that you've ever known and improve your efficiency and increase your yields.
Larry, Dave, Barney, thank you so much for coming in. We sure appreciate it. Don't forget, folks, the webinar follows this broadcast. Go to SFP.com. I'm Max Armstrong. Thanks for being with us here on this edition of RFD-TV Live.